Forced to marry the paralyzed mafia boss on the wedding night, he locked the door and stood up. The champagne fountain sparkled under the crystal chandelier, but Elena Russo couldn't taste anything except fear. She stood at the head table in a cream dress her mother had chosen, too tight at the waist, too loose at the shoulders, like even the fabric knew she didn't belong here. The banquet hall was filled with people she barely recognized, all wearing expensive suits and fake smiles. Security guards lined the walls, their hands resting too casually near their jackets. Her father, Marco Russo, gripped her elbow and steered her toward the center of the room. His fingers dug into her skin hard enough to bruise, but his face was all charm and gratitude. "You're doing the right thing, sweetheart," he whispered through clenched teeth. "This saves all of us. Hello, lovely. If you're enjoying this tale of deception, courage, and unexpected rescue, tap like, leave a quick comment, and subscribe so YouTube knows to bring you more stories you'll enjoy. And if you're up for it, tell me your first name in the comments. I read every note, and it always brings a smile to my face." Elena wanted to scream. She wanted to run. Instead, she stood frozen as a notary approached with a leather folder and a gold pen. Around them, the music played soft and meaningless, like elevator music for her execution. "I don't understand," she said quietly, looking at her mother across the room. Her mother wouldn't meet her eyes. "You said this was just a business dinner." "It is business," her father replied, his smile never faltering. "And you're the deal." The words hit her like ice water. She tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. "Dad, please. Stop embarrassing me," he hissed, still smiling for the cameras. "You'll do this, Elena. You've been useless for 23 years. Finally, you're worth something." Her stomach twisted. She looked around desperately, but every face in the room was either indifferent or relieved. Her younger sister stood near the bar, scrolling through her phone. Her uncle raised his glass in a mock toast. They all knew. They had all agreed to this. The double doors at the far end of the hall opened with a soft click that somehow silenced the entire room. He entered like winter itself, a man in an expensive black suit seated in a sleek wheelchair, pushed by two guards who looked like they'd been carved from stone. His face was sharp and expressionless, his dark hair perfectly styled, his eyes the color of smoke. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just studied the room with the detached interest of someone inspecting property he'd already purchased. This was Dante Moretti, the paralyzed mafia boss. The man her father owed $3 million to. The man she was about to marry. The wheelchair stopped a few feet from her. Dante's gaze moved from her father to her, lingering on the hand still gripping her arm. Something flickered behind his calm expression, something cold and dangerous. "Take your hand off her," Dante said quietly. The room went silent. Even the music seemed to stop. Her father's fingers released immediately, and he stepped back with a nervous laugh. Of course. Just steadying her. Big moment, you know." Dante's eyes never left her father's face. "Is it?" The notary cleared his throat and opened the leather folder. "If we could proceed with the signatures." "No," Elena said suddenly, her voice shaking. "I'm not signing anything. I don't even know him." Her father's face went pale. "Elena." "She's right," Dante interrupted smoothly. "She doesn't know me." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and she felt like he could see every terrified thought racing through her mind. "But she will." "This is ridiculous," her father sputtered. "We had a deal." "The deal stands," Dante said. "But not like this." He gestured to his guards. "Clear the room. Everyone except her." The guards moved instantly, ushering guests toward the exits. Her family protested, but they went. They all went. Within minutes, the glittering hall was empty except for Elena, Dante, the notary, and two guards stationed at the doors. The silence was deafening. Dante rolled his wheelchair closer until he was directly in front of her. This close, she could see the fine details, the scar that cut through his left eyebrow, the perfect press of his collar, the way his hands rested on the armrests with complete control. They're not marrying you, he said quietly. They're trading you. Her breath caught. I know. And you don't want this. Does it matter? He tilted his head slightly, studying her. It should. But it doesn't, she said bitterly. My father owes you money. I'm the payment. That's how this works, right? Something almost like sympathy crossed his face. Not quite. He nodded to the notary. Bring the contract. The notary placed the papers on the table. Dante picked up the pen and signed his name in swift, decisive strokes. Then he held the pen out to her. If you sign, he said carefully, you come with me tonight. You live in my house. You follow my rules. But you are not a payment, Elena. You are a line no one crosses. She stared at the pen. What's the difference? The difference, he said, his voice dropping lower, is that I don't break what's mine. Her hand trembled as she took the pen. She thought about her father's grip on her arm, her mother's averted eyes, her sister's indifference. She thought about being worth something only when she could be sold. She signed. Dante nodded once, almost satisfied. Then he looked at his guards. Bring her, he said. The doors locked with a soft, final click. 2. The estate was nothing like Elena expected. She'd imagined something dark and gothic, all iron gates and shadowy corners. Instead, Dante's home was modern and cold, glass walls that overlooked a private garden, polished stone floors that echoed with every step, soft lighting that made everything feel like a luxury hotel. But it didn't feel like a home. It felt like a fortress. They arrived just after midnight. Dante's guards helped him from the car while another man older, with grey hair and kind eyes, approached Elena with a polite nod. Miss Russo, he said gently. I'm Vincent. I manage the household. Let me show you to your room. Elena followed him through a maze of hallways, her heels clicking too loudly on the stone. Dante rolled behind them in silence, his wheelchair making almost no sound. She felt his eyes on her back the entire time. Vincent stopped at a door near the end of a long corridor. This will be your suite, he said, opening it to reveal a spacious room with floor-to-ceiling windows, a king-sized bed, and a private bathroom that looked like something from a magazine. It was beautiful. It was also clearly not his room. Thank you, Elena said quietly. Vincent hesitated, then glanced at Dante. Should I have the kitchen prepare something? She hasn't eaten. No, Elena said quickly. I'm fine. She'll eat, Dante said, his voice cutting through her protest. Bring soup. And tea. Vincent nodded and disappeared down the hall. Dante rolled closer, stopping just inside the doorway. There are rules, he said. No contact with your family without my approval. No leaving the property without a driver. And no entering the East Wing. Why not? Because I said so. Elena crossed her arms. Am I a wife or a prisoner? His expression didn't change. You're not a prisoner. You're protected. From what? From them, he said simply. And from yourself. Before she could respond, Vincent returned with a tray. He set it on the dresser and left without a word. The soup smelled like rosemary and chicken, and Elena's stomach betrayed her with a loud growl. Dante's lips twitched, almost a smile. Eat, he said. Then sleep. Tomorrow, we'll discuss what happens next. He turned to leave, but Elena's voice stopped him. Why are you doing this? He looked back at her, his expression unreadable. Because they thought they could throw you away, he said quietly. And I don't allow that. The door closed, and she was alone. The next morning, Elena woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the faint smell of coffee. She dressed in the clothes someone had unpacked for her, jeans and a soft sweater she didn't remember owning, and ventured out into the hallway. The house was silent except for the distant hum of voices. She followed the sound to a bright kitchen where Vincent was arranging fruit on a platter. Good morning, Miss Russo, he said warmly. Mr. Moretti is in the dining room. He requested you join him for breakfast. Elena's stomach knotted, but she nodded. The dining room was all glass and light, with a long table that could seat 20. Dante sat at the head in his wheelchair, reading something on a tablet. He looked up when she entered. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair beside him. Saturday. A plate of eggs, toast, and fresh berries appeared in front of her almost immediately. She picked at the food, too nervous to eat properly. "You didn't sleep well," Dante observed. "How would you know?" "Because I checked on you twice." Her head snapped up. "You what?" "You're under my protection," he said calmly. "That means I need to know you're safe." "That's creepy." "That's the rule." She set down her fork. "I don't understand you. One minute you're locking me in a room, the next you're bringing me soup. What do you want from me?" He studied her for a long moment. "I want you to stop looking at me like I'm going to hurt you." "You're a mafia boss," she said bluntly. "What am I supposed to think?" "That I'm a man who keeps his word." He leaned back slightly. "Your father told you I was paralyzed, didn't he?" "Yes." "And you believe him?" She looked at the wheelchair, at the way his hands rested motionless on the armrests. "Aren't you?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pressed a button on his tablet, and Vincent appeared in the doorway. "Have the staff briefed on the new protocol," Dante said. "If Miss Russo asks for water, you bring it. If she says no, you listen. She is not a guest. She is family." Vincent bowed slightly. "Of course, sir." Elena stared at Dante. "Why are you doing this?" He met her gaze, his expression softening just slightly. "Because they taught you love comes with a price," he said. "And I'm going to prove it doesn't." That night, curiosity got the better of her. She waited until the house was quiet, then slipped out of her room and down the hallway. She wasn't trying to escape, just trying to understand. She found a study with the door slightly ajar. Inside, a desk was covered in papers and photographs. She stepped closer, her heart pounding. And then she froze. The photographs were of her. Dozens of them. Her leaving the hospital where she volunteered. Her buying coffee at her favorite cafe. Her sitting on a park bench reading a book. He'd been watching her. Long before the wedding. The door clicked shut behind her. "Find what you were looking for?" Dante's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. Elena spun around. He was there in the doorway, watching her with those unreadable eyes. "You've been stalking me," she whispered. "I've been protecting you," he corrected. "Your father's debts made you a target 6 months ago. I made sure no one else got to you first. So you could get to me yourself. So I could keep you alive." He rolled closer. "Your father didn't tell you the full story, did he? The debt wasn't just money. It was collateral for a deal that would have gotten you killed. I offered him a way out, marry you to me, and the debt disappears. You stay safe." Elena's breath came in short gasps. "You bought me to save me. I married you to save you," he said. "There's a difference." She didn't know what to say. She didn't know what to feel. Dante reached out and gently took her hand. His touch was warm, steady. "You're not a payment, Elena," he said quietly. "You're mine. And I protect what's mine. If you're enjoying this story, I'd be so grateful for a like and subscribe. It helps me bring you more stories you'd love. 3. Elena spent the next week testing every boundary Dante had set. She wandered the halls, explored the garden, tried every locked door in the east wing. She wasn't looking for an escape, she was looking for proof. Proof that this was real. Proof that he meant what he said. Every time she pushed, Dante was there. Not angry. Not cruel. Just watching. One afternoon, she found herself in the library, a massive room filled with leather-bound books and the smell of old paper. She was reaching for a book on the top shelf when she lost her balance and stumbled backward. Strong hands caught her before she hit the ground. She looked up, expecting Vincent or one of the guards. Instead, she found herself staring into Dante's face, his wheelchair abandoned a few feet away. "Wait. You're standing," she breathed. Dante steadied her, then carefully lowered himself back into the wheelchair. His expression was calm, but there was something tense in his jaw. "You can walk," she said, her voice rising. "You've been lying this whole time." "Not lying," he said evenly. "Adapting." "That's the same thing." "No," he said sharply. "It's survival. My enemies think I'm weak. It keeps them careless. It keeps you safe." Elena backed away, her mind racing. "Does anyone else know?" "Vincent. My head of security." "That's it." He rolled closer. "And now you. Why tell me?" "Because you were about to break your neck proving a point." His eyes softened slightly. "And because I don't want to lie to you." She sank into a nearby chair, her hands shaking. "I don't understand any of this. I don't understand you." Dante wheeled closer until their knees almost touched. "What don't you understand?" "Why you care," she whispered. "Why you're doing any of this." "I'm nobody. I'm just the daughter of a man who couldn't pay his debts." "You're not nobody," he said quietly. "You're the woman who volunteered at a hospital every Tuesday for 2 years even though your family told you it was a waste of time. You're the woman who defended a homeless man from teenagers throwing rocks. You're the woman who smiled at the barista who always gets your order wrong because you didn't want to hurt his feelings." Elena's breath caught. "How do you know all that?" "Because I've been watching you," he said. "And I saw someone worth saving." She looked down at her hands. "My family didn't." "Your family is blind." He reached out and gently lifted her chin until she was looking at him. "They taught you that you only matter if you're useful. They're wrong." His thumb brushed across her cheek, and Elena realized she was crying. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "Do what?" "Trust you. Believe this is real." Dante's hand moved to cup her face, his touch impossibly gentle. "Then don't trust me yet," he said. "Just stay. Stay until you believe it." That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the moment in the library, the feel of his hands catching her, the look in his eyes when he told her she was worth saving. At 2 in the morning, she gave up and went to the kitchen for water. She was rinsing her glass when she heard a sound behind her. Dante was there in the doorway, still in his wheelchair, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. "No." She set down the glass. "You. I don't sleep much." He rolled closer. "What's keeping you awake?" "You," she said honestly. Something flickered in his eyes. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" "I don't know yet." He studied her for a long moment. "Come here." Elena hesitated, then walked over to him. He reached up and took her hand, pulling her closer until she was standing between his knees. "If you were mine by force," he said quietly, "I'd hate myself." "Then why keep me?" "Because letting you go would kill you." His grip tightened slightly. "Your father's debts don't just disappear, Elena. The people he owes, they're not patient. They're not kind. If you went back, they'd take you. And what they'd do to you would be worse than death." Her stomach twisted. "So I'm trapped either way." "No," he said firmly. "Here, you're protected. Here, you have a choice." "What choice?" "To stay because you want to," he said. "Not because you have to." Elena looked down at their joined hands. His thumb was tracing small circles on her wrist, and the touch sent warmth spreading through her chest. "What if I want to stay?" she whispered. Dante's eyes darkened. "Then I'll make sure you never regret it." He pulled her closer, and for a moment, she thought he might kiss her. Instead, he rested his forehead against her stomach, his arms wrapping around her waist. "I'm not a good man, Elena," he murmured against her. "I've done terrible things. I'll do more. But I will never, ever hurt you." She didn't know what to say. So she just stood there, her fingers threading through his hair, and let herself feel safe for the first time in weeks. 4. The fragile peace shattered on a Tuesday afternoon. Elena had been living in Dante's estate for 3 weeks. She'd settled into a routine breakfast with Dante, afternoons in the library, evenings watching him work in his study. They didn't talk much, but the silence between them had softened into something comfortable. She'd almost forgotten about the world outside the gates. Then her phone rang. The new one Dante had given her, programmed with only a handful of numbers. Her father's name flashed on the screen. Elena stared at it, her heart pounding. She hadn't spoken to him since the wedding. Part of her wanted to ignore it. But a deeper, more desperate part needed to hear his voice. Needed to hear him say he was sorry. She answered. Elena, her father said, and his voice was exactly the same, warm, charming, utterly empty. How are you, sweetheart? I'm fine, she said carefully. Good, good. Listen, I know things ended badly at the wedding, but I wanted to check in. Make sure you're okay. Hope flickered in her chest. You did. Of course. You're still my daughter. He paused. I assume Moretti is treating you well? He is. That's good. That's what we wanted. Another pause. Elena, I need you to do something for me. The hope died as quickly as it had sparked. What? There are some people asking about you. Business associates. They want to know if the arrangement is permanent. What arrangement? The marriage, her father said impatiently. They want to know if Moretti plans to keep you or if you'll be available for other negotiations. Elena felt like she'd been slapped. Other negotiations? It's just business, sweetheart. Don't take it personally. But if Moretti loses interest, we need to have options. You understand. She understood perfectly. He wasn't calling to check on her. He was calling to see if he could sell her again. I have to go, she said, her voice hollow. Elena, wait. She hung up and dropped the phone like it had burned her. Her hands were shaking. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. She ran. She didn't think about where she was going. She just moved, her feet carrying her through the house and out into the garden. Rain had started to fall, cold and sharp against her skin. She kept running until she reached the iron gates at the edge of the property. She grabbed the bars and pulled, but they didn't budge. Of course they didn't. She was locked in. Miss Russo. Vincent appeared at her side, an umbrella in hand. Please come inside. No, she gasped. I need to leave. I need to. You can't leave, he said gently. It's not safe. I don't care. She pulled at the gates again, harder this time. Let me out. Elena. Dante's voice cut through the rain. She spun around. He was there at the edge of the garden, still in his wheelchair, rain soaking his suit. His face was calm, but his eyes were filled with something dark and dangerous. Let me go, she said, tears mixing with the rain. Please, just let me go. He rolled closer, stopping a few feet away. Where would you go? Anywhere. Home. My family. Your family doesn't want you, he said bluntly. Your father just called to ask if I was done with you yet. He wants to know if he can sell you to someone else. Elena's breath caught. How do you know that? Because I monitor your calls. He moved closer. I told you, Elena. You're protected here. That means I know everything. You were listening. I'm always listening. He stopped right in front of her, the rain dripping down his face. You called them hoping they'd changed. Hoping they'd finally see you as more than a bargaining chip. But they didn't. They never will. She sank to her knees in the wet grass, sobs tearing through her chest. They don't even want me back. Good, Dante said quietly. She looked up at him, shocked. Good. Good, he repeated. Because now I don't have to be gentle. Before she could ask what he meant, Vincent's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, then looked at Dante with a grim expression. Sir. We have a situation. The East Gate. Multiple vehicles. Dante's face went cold. How many? 6. Armed. They're demanding to see Miss Russo. Elena's blood turned to ice. Who are they? The people your father owes money to, Dante said. The ones who wanted you as collateral. He turned his wheelchair sharply. Vincent, full lockdown. Get her inside. Now. No, Elena said, scrambling to her feet. I'm not hiding while you will do exactly what I say, Dante said, his voice dropping to something lethal. Or people will die. Vincent grabbed her arm gently but firmly. Miss Russo. Please. She let him pull her toward the house, but she looked back at Dante. What are you going to do? He met her eyes, and for the first time, she saw the full weight of what he was. Not a man in a wheelchair. Not her reluctant protector. But something darker, colder, infinitely more dangerous. I'm going to remind them why they should have stayed away, he said. Then he pressed a button on his wheelchair, and she heard a sound that made her stomach drop. Guns. Lots of them. Cocking in unison. Vincent pulled her inside, and the last thing she saw before the door closed was Dante rolling toward the gate, his men falling into formation around him like shadows given form. If you're enjoying this story, I'd be so grateful for a like and subscribe. It helps me bring you more stories you'd love. 5. The house had gone silent. Not peaceful, tense, coiled, like the air before a thunderstorm. Elena sat in Dante's private suite where Vincent had locked her, her hands clenched in her lap, listening to muffled sounds from outside. Shouts. The roar of engines. A single gunshot that made her flinch. Then nothing. Minutes crawled by like hours. She paced the room, her heart hammering against her ribs. The suite was beautiful in that same cold, impersonal way as the rest of the house, all clean lines and expensive furniture. But there were small details she'd never noticed before. A book on the nightstand, pages worn from reading. A photograph on the dresser, face down. A jacket draped over a chair that smelled like cedar and smoke. This was his room. His actual room. The door handle rattled suddenly, and Elena jumped back, her pulse spiking. Miss Russo. Vincent's voice, calm but urgent. I need you to stay inside. Do not open this door for anyone except Mr. Moretti or me. Do you understand? What's happening? They breached the outer perimeter. We're handling it. Just stay inside. His footsteps retreated, and Elena was alone again with her racing thoughts. She tried to convince herself that Dante knew what he was doing. That he'd survived this long for a reason. But the fear was a living thing in her chest, clawing and desperate. What if he was hurt? What if the wheelchair made him vulnerable? What if? The door handle rattled again, harder this time. More violent. Elena backed up until she hit the far wall, her breath coming in short gasps. Vincent. No answer. The door shuddered as something heavy slammed into it from the outside. Once. Twice. The lock was going to break. She looked around frantically for a weapon, anything. Her fingers closed around a heavy marble bookend just as the door burst open. A man stumbled through, not Vincent, not one of Dante's guards. This man was bleeding from his temple, his suit torn, his eyes wild with desperation and fury. There you are, he snarled, lunging toward her. Elena swung the bookend with everything she had. It connected with his shoulder, and he howled, grabbing her wrist and twisting until she dropped the makeshift weapon. You stupid girl, he spat. Do you have any idea how much you're worth? Your father promised you to us months ago, and then Moretti swoops in and steals our collateral. The door slammed open again. Dante was there. But not the Dante she knew. Not the calm man in the wheelchair who brought her soup and watched her with careful eyes. This Dante was standing. Tall, imposing, moving with a predator's grace. And the look on his face was murder given form. Get your hands off her, he said, his voice so cold it made the air feel thin. The man holding Elena froze, then tightened his grip on her wrist. You're supposed to be. Dante moved. Fast. Impossibly fast. One moment he was across the room, the next his hand was locked around the man's throat, slamming him against the wall with a force that rattled the paintings. I said, Dante repeated slowly, dangerously, get your hands off her. The man released Elena instantly, clawing at Dante's grip. Please, we were just following orders. Whose orders? Marco Russo, the man choked out. He told us the marriage wasn't real, that we could still collect. Dante's grip tightened until the man's face started turning purple. And you believed him? Please. Dante looked at Elena then, and something in his eyes shifted when he saw her shaking against the wall, her wrist already bruising. The rage in his expression crystallized into something colder, more final. If you come within a mile of her ever again, he said quietly to the man, there won't be enough of you left to identify. He released his grip, and the man crumpled to the floor, gasping. Two of Dante's guards appeared in the doorway, silent and efficient. Take him, Dante ordered. And call the police. Let them know we caught the men who were attempting to breach private property. Make sure they understand these are the same people tied to Marco Russo's fraud charges. The guards dragged the man away, and suddenly the room was empty except for Elena and Dante. He turned to her, and she saw it now, the careful way he held himself, the slight tremor in his hands. He'd been pretending for so long that even now, standing tall and dangerous, he looked like he was wearing a mask. You can walk, she whispered. Yes. You've been able to walk this whole time. Yes. He took a step toward her, and she saw him wince slightly. The paralysis isn't complete. I can stand, I can move when I need to. But it costs me. Pain. Weakness after. So I save it for when it matters. And tonight mattered. Tonight, he said, stopping in front of her, someone put their hands on you. So yes. It mattered. Elena's breath shuddered out. You could have been killed. But I wasn't. He reached out carefully, gently taking her injured wrist and examining the bruises forming there. His jaw tightened. I'm sorry. I should have moved faster. Don't, she said, her voice breaking. Don't apologize for saving me. He looked at her, really looked at her, and she saw the cracks in his armor. The exhaustion. The fear he'd been hiding. They traded you like a thing, he said quietly. And you, she asked, the question she'd been holding back for weeks finally breaking free. What am I to you? Dante cupped her face with both hands, his touch gentle despite the violence still humming in his muscles. I married you like a promise, he said. You are not a transaction. You are not collateral. You are mine, Elena. And I protect what's mine. Even if it costs you. Especially then. She didn't know who moved first. Maybe they both did. But suddenly his lips were on hers, and the kiss was everything desperate and claiming and achingly tender all at once. His hands slid into her hair, and she gripped his shirt like he was the only solid thing in a tilting world. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. On our wedding night, he murmured, I locked the door. I stood up. And I realized I was never going to let you go. Elena's fingers traced the line of his jaw. Good, she whispered. Because I'm not going anywhere. Outside, the sound of sirens wailed in the distance. Police coming to collect the men who'd tried to take her. Inside, Dante pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her like he could shield her from the entire world. And for the first time since her father had gripped her arm in that glittering hall, Elena felt like she'd finally found the only family she'd ever needed, the monster who'd chosen her, the man who'd stood up when it mattered most, the promise that said she was worth more than any debt. She was home.